What privileges do men have?
We've constructed this entire society to benefit us.
Break it down, like what privileges exactly?
Like we talk about the wage gap, or if you look at Roe versus Wade, men controlling women's bodies.
Oh, I was liking this guy. Up until this point. So Vice has come out with another one of their debate panel things. We all know the last one was the Feminist one, and I did a little bit on that where, you know, the one woman had no legs, and it was really just a bunch of hardcore left-wing people going up against two or three in the middle, maybe right-wing anti-feminist people. And now they have one about being a man, which should be interesting because we all know how these left-wing liberals view masculinity. So I'm sure this is going to be totally fair and not a bunch of beta males lecturing people about being a man. But hit the like and the subscribe. And leave a comment in the comment section about what your view is on what it is to be a man. And we're going to get started with this video. And it's a long one. So I don't know how much of it I'm going to watch, how much of it I'll leave in. But I'll try to get as much as possible and make it not as, you know, much of a freaking like The Irishman or whatever, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or anything like that. All right.
First date, and then you just ghost me. And the next week I'm like hurting for cash. I'm like, I could have really used that 150. Like, why did I have to?
Also, the trade-off of like going on a date and as the man being like, oh, this sucks, I have to pay, or as the woman being like, oh, this sucks, I might get murdered, is like a pretty big imbalance.
And it starts already. Okay. All right. First of all, I do like the diversity representation. I like how the white guy is the representative apparently of women in a conversation about how to be a man. I mean they would know as much as the other people there, wouldn't they? Yes, they would. That's called science. But the guy's clearly talking about just general dating dynamics. And then, of course, the person who is on the men are toxic and dangerous and should never be, trusted, of course, had to bring up the most extreme of extreme cases, which is a woman getting killed on a date, which hardly ever happens. It has, and it does, but it almost never, ever happens. It almost never happens. Like, almost never happens. You're way more likely to die in dozens of different ways on a date, ladies, than you are to just be killed by the guy that you went out with. So, but again, that's all they have. And I assume that this is what it's going to be. All they have is the extremes. If it wasn't for the extreme rarity exceptions to the rule, they wouldn't have any arguments. And I think that's going to be very evident. I haven't watched it yet. I just kind of know the enemy. So I hope that, hey, I know the enemy. I love Vice invited male identifying and non-binary folks from across the country to discuss their ideas of masculinity. Male identifying. Guys, you invited 9 guys to come talk about what it is to be a man. 9 guys. What is this? Folks. Folks is like the new term. It's not a new term, but it's like the term they use now. It's like something folks. You ever notice that? They use folks a lot.
My name is Tahoe. I'm a black man from the hood. When I was young, being a man, you had to be tough. You had to be hard. And now, to me, being a man is a lot different. Now, to me, being a man is knowing when to be soft. Knowing that you don't always have to run the charge. You can actually listen. You know what I mean? So things have changed a lot over the course of the years for me.
I do appreciate that guy's perspective, because I think that the attitude that a lot of people have in the inner cities, in the hood, is that men have to be constantly aggressive and, for lack of better terms, perhaps violent and, have hustle or whatever, and don't take nothing from anybody, or you punch him in the mouth type of a deal. So he's probably got an interesting perspective that all these that all these other uptight people probably don't.
I'm Griffin, and I don't identify as a man. I'm non-binary. I still have elements of, my identity that are masculine, elements that are feminine, elements that don't fall within that range. And I personally just don't feel tied to like the norms or the confines of gender at all.
I was not always a good man. I was not always what you would call a healthy masculine man. And so as my life has changed, I've identified 5 points that I think make a truly masculine man masculine.
Okay.
I think point number 1 is a man who walks with God. Point number 2 is a man who stands on principle. Point number 3, which is a masculine man, is self-sacrificing. So someone who is willing to sacrifice for point 4, the people that he leads. A true man is a leader. And number 5, a masculine man is never a coward.
That guy nailed it. It would be the cowboy hat guy from Texas who he nailed it. That's it. That's the answer. Thanks for coming, guys. No. Okay, let's see the walking contradictions that are gonna happen now.
Kind of becomes like irrelevant whether or not we attribute like having like a good ethical compass to being like masculine. Attributing that to like the gender constructs which we have made up, which are like somewhat pointless, like kind of just feed into needless roles that uphold the patriarchy without even knowing it. A lot of those things are just things that people should be doing because they're like morally right. Like if you're in a family, you should probably support your family. And I really don't think that it has to do with like your manhood.
Actually, it kind of does. It actually kind of does, because the whole basis of why we look at supporting your family and stuff is based upon how things were way back when, in the caveman days, where the guys really were the ones that went out of their way to risk their lives to make sure the family was okay. Now we have different ways of doing it because we're more civilized people. We don't have to leave the cave and go and fight a bear. Or, figure out a way to kill a wild boar or something like that, while the women take care of like the smaller things, like the kids and stuff, and then go and they gather, the hunter-gatherer thing. The hunting is obviously more of a dangerous thing to do. The roles are different and they're equally as important, but that's where that comes from. So Mr. Mrs. Mix binary person, that's what that is. So this upholding of the patriarchy, whatever the hell that even means, that's how our species has functioned. There are multiple other species that function in that exact same way, and that's how they got to where they were today, which is the most advanced version of themselves. Same thing when there's a species that has a matriarchy. The reason they did that is because it advanced their species as far as it could be, as advanced as it could get. So then the arguments get presented of, well, other species have matriarchy, so why can't we? It's like, because we're not them. That's why. We're not that other species. If we were, then that's what we would be. But we're not. And the reason why we got to this advanced level we are, we're easily one of the most civilized species that there is, despite how we treat each other, is because of that foundation. And the more that we've tried to tear that foundation apart, the worse we've gotten in terms of being able to take care of each other. Just look at divorce rates. Look at the criminality. There was a time where we were upholding more patriarchal values and we were much nicer to each other. There was a lot less crime happening. There was more complete nuclear families. The education was better. We lost that the moment we started to tear apart the foundation that we built at the very beginning, which is now it's like, oh, a woman could be a man, and a man could be a woman, and a man could be this, and a woman could be that. No big deal. Well, it is a big deal. And it's starting to slowly unravel the more that we've gone down that road.
I grew up in a divorced home. When you do grow up in a broken home and you don't have a father in the home, you recognize how important sort of both males and females are in raising a child and being in the home.
Y'all just like triggered something in my head when y'all speaking about having both in the home. To me, I didn't really have it there, and it made me feel a way. But I think that I always wanted one, and so I wound up at a certain age going outside and trying to find what masculinity was outside. And so I went on the corner, and there were 20 of us on the corner, and none of us had dads. We were all messed up, and so we all taught each other the wrong way to love.
And there it is. That's a perfect story of all this. They didn't have that in the home. So they went looking for it in the wrong places, which is the core behind why you see the correlation between poverty, criminality, and the single mother household. It's not the woman's fault. It's not the woman's fault. And a lot of people that are on the left and that are feminists will come out and get very defensive, like this is an attack on women. It's not. There's just certain things you're not capable of. Just like there's certain things the man's not capable of. That's why everyone's so important. That's why this new like culture that they're giving to women of I don't need no man, and women are marrying the government through all these government programs and welfare, and that's what is leading to this perpetual cycle of poverty and criminality in these poorer neighborhoods. It's because all these women are married to the government and not married to the men that they're having kids with. And then their kids go out and try to find out what a man is from somebody who didn't have that influence either. So all they have is what? The person that they got it from, and they have it from the person they got it from, the person that they got it from, and all those people, they're all involved in the same cycle of poverty and criminality. But there's still going to be people who will acknowledge this to be true. They're still going to post about how they don't need no man, there's still going to be women out there, a lot of them in their early 20s, talking about how they just want to have a kid. They don't need the man around. It's like, oh, we can have a choice and I can take care of them myself. I don't need the man to do it. I just need somebody to do the impregnating. You're wrong. You're so wrong. And you're the ones that are, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, raising the people that are going to be problems in the cities, problem in society, that make it dangerous, that aren't making positive influences. The issues that we have with a lot of the problems that we have with each other and society and criminality, poverty, is not a toxic masculinity. It's the lack of masculinity. It's the lack of a influence at all, a regular influence, somebody in the house. It's like when you had the movie Boys in the Hood. Perfect example. Kind of. Let me work through this. Boy was having problems living with just his mom. Moved in with his dad under the guise of, she said, I don't know how to teach him how to be a man. And then Furious Style took him in and taught him how to be a man. Doing man stuff. Discipline, hard work, and education, staying out of trouble, etc., etc. And you saw how Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character ended up being so much different than the other guys and the other characters in that movie who didn't have male influences. Two of them, they all ended up dead, in a wheelchair, whatever, and Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character lived right through it, got his girl, and went to school, etc. It's those little things, and that's a perfect painting of the picture for what happens, for what this guy just was explaining.
Yeah, well, first I think that, attributing, proper family values to, a heterosexual couple with children is, just not effective. I think that it's obviously, a heteronormative take to be, man and woman and then a child, and that's how you create, a good family, and whether it's, a single mother, single father, or, a queer couple. I don't think that it's necessary to, attribute men and women to, certain roles in the household. I think that it's only due to nurture those gender norms that we follow.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm gonna try to get through this. The non-binary, the self-hating man character that they picked. Okay, you want to know how I know that they know that men and women are different? Is that they say they're neither one. That's how I know that person knows men and women are different. That men and women contribute. Because they're not saying they're non-binary because men and women are the same. They're saying that they're non-binary because men and women are different and they don't feel like they're either one. Let's get that out of the way first. Number 2, obviously, having two parents in a home who have perhaps different temperaments, different, not necessarily different values, but different ways of handling things, is better than just one, whether it's a gay couple or straight couple. However, that person, that child growing up in that house, if it's a gay or lesbian household, is going to be growing up naturally with a lack of influence from one of the genders, which means they are going from an early age not have experience in building a positive relationship or knowing what a positive and negative relationship truly looks like with a person of the opposite gender. And that's how you get issues with romantic relationships. That's how you get issues with building friendships and relationships at work, and understanding the difference between the two to know how to navigate through the minefield that is relationship building, whether it's romantic, platonic, whatever. So I know that Blondie over here is just trying to justify his position in the world, but they're incorrect on its face. Incorrect. In the general speaking. Because these debates, when we talk about these topics, we have to speak in generalities, because if we're talking about the exceptions to the rule as some sort of evidence to discredit what is generally true, then there's no point in talking about it. There's no point in the information exchange. In general, it is better that it's a man and a woman together, because that child learns the temperaments of the two different genders out there, which 99.9% of people out there identify, can't believe I even said identify, as a man or a woman, and have generally the same temperaments with some minimal exceptions. So they're going to be a lot better equipped and adapted to the real world if they grow up in that environment. It's just the facts of it. Just the facts of it.
Like, what privileges do men have?
We've constructed this entire society to benefit us.
Break it down. Like, what privileges exactly?
Like, we talk about the wage gap, or if you look at Roe versus Wade, men controlling women's bodies.
Oh, I was liking this guy. Up until this point. Do we need to go over the wage gap again? I'm not. I did in the last video. They brought it up again. It's 2023 when this video got dropped. 5 days. So we're 10 years removed, at least, from this being debunked. I'm not going to talk about it. He wants to talk about Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade was not something that existed prior to anything. Roe v. Wade was a judgment made by men to give the abortion rights. So it was men who decided that would exist. So this whole reversal thing now of like men are deciding to get rid of it. You said men shouldn't make those decisions. Well, the decision wasn't to get rid of it. The original decision was to give it. So men are allowed to make these decisions for women's bodies, allegedly, only when that decision, benefits you? So it's okay for men to make the decision as long as they make the decision that you want them to make. The second they don't make the decision you want to make, all of a sudden it's not their bodies and they shouldn't be making the decisions for people. That's a bit of a logical fallacy, don't you think? It's a little bit of BS. And I'm really disappointed that the guy who's actually been making some quality points is coming at me now with the damn wage gap. Like a complete moron. Can't win them all, I guess. Can't win them all.
Even if there might be those privileges, there's also more men who commit suicide, more men incarcerated.
I think when you talk about like incarceration rates and things like that, like things that men are a victim of, I think that it's important to like recognize, like, I don't think that men are oppressed solely on the grounds that they're men. I think that men like experience oppression based on like the intersections of their identities, which is, you know, why we see like different like lower class jobs being worked by men, or like higher suicide rates, or like incarceration rates going up, because like men, like black men, brown men, indigenous men, queer men, trans men, etc., those people like face oppression, they experience oppression, but it's not solely due to their identity as a man.
I like how he just went. I like how that was like his roundabout way. The white guy having the roundabout way of being like, listen, if we're gonna try to say that white men are hurting at all, we aren't going to do that, because instead I will do it as long as I can interject my wokeness into this by talking about black men, brown men, indigenous men. Don't forget about the queer men. Hello. I mean, non-binaries. Hello. Not men. Not a man. Not a man. Not a man. Non-binary. Hello. Hello. Like my dress. Like my dress.
I date in New York City a lot, and dating-wise, there's a lot that's like asked of a man. Like, first dates are like nightmares.
I got a question.
Dude, it's like, I'm like, what do you want? They got like a checkbox, like, are you gonna pick me up? Are you gonna walk on the outside of the sidewalk? Are you gonna open the door? Are you gonna pull out the seat? Are you gonna pay for the meal? Are you gonna be interesting during the dinner? Are you gonna be funny during the dinner? And then when you walk home, are you gonna drop me off? Are you gonna watch me walk inside? And then are you gonna text me after? And it's like trying to defuse a bomb. Like, if you think you're like red wire, blue wire, and you're like one little thing and you're just done.
I like how this guy is giving his experience, and then, you know, Blondie, not a guy, is there just rolling his eyes, you know, like, oh my God. Like, are you serious right now? So when a guy gets to talk about his experience out in the world, which, by the way, I dare anyone to tell me that the dating world isn't way harder for guys than it is for girls. The whole premise now of online dating is that men are just food on a plate at a buffet. That's it. That's all we are. And the women get to be the ones to walk up to each table and walk across and go, but all the food is there for them at all times. It's all there for them at all times. And the guys are just the food sitting there like, oh, I hope they pick me. I hope they pick me. I hope they pick me. And then when they do pick you, you better taste good. You better taste perfect. You better be as good as they thought you were when they picked you up off that plate. Because if you're even a slight, tiniest bit off, done. On to the next. So I do appreciate someone finally bringing that up and representing that aspect of male and female relations, especially in the modern day today. Because women, you don't gotta do jack shit to get guys anymore. All your DMs are full. You turn off the notifications on your dating apps probably because it's just bling, you have a match, bling, you have a match, bling, you have a match, bling, you have a like, bling, you have a the whole time. Unbelievable. Oh, and then the most self-hating man on the panel is there like, sorry that now everything's like fucking Grinder, dude. Ugh. Oh, that got to me. Unbelievable. Unreal. But this is a long video, so I'm going to break this up into parts. So this is going to be the end of part 1. Part 2, I'll release it shortly after. I record it, watch it. I just break this up into 2 parts, make it a little bit easier for you guys to digest. But thank you for coming. Like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because apparently, like, my stuff is not reaching people properly. So at least hit the notification bell so you can get all the parts of this video, and I'll share your thoughts in the comment section of what we covered so far. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.